This program has been made possible in part by the following sponsors. The Trial Lawyers Association of BC. The Vancouver Courier newspaper. My new book about addictions, All the Way Home, Building Recovery That Works. What kind of city governments or municipal governments are we enjoying or failing to enjoy these days? How are we doing on our transportation plans, if any? And what about our taxes? Do we have the kind of politicians that we like to think we remember that we had? Or perhaps they're mysteriously even better and we don't get it. If anybody gets it, it'll be GORD PRICE, who for 6 terms was a Vancouver City Councillor and set a number of firsts in doing that. And since then, aside from all the other things he enjoys, has been the director of the City Program. Is that what it's called? It's the City Program at Simon Fraser University downtown at the Harbour Centre. He's a consultant on urban and transportation issues to a lot of places, including, oddly enough, Portland, Oregon. Gord, great to see you.
David,
yeah.
So good to see you with your clothes on.
Yes, it's rare that I am, because he came up to me, folks, at the aquatic center the other day as I was getting ready to swim.
The real David Berner.
Yeah, the real David Berner. And I sent him an email, said, you know, you're only the second politician who's seen me in the buff.
And the first?
Mike Harcourt,
yeah.
Which raises this issue, this question. Mikey has always said that his proudest achievement, I know he's all about sustainability, he's married himself to that word, but he claims the best thing this city ever did was not run an expressway to the center of the city like Seattle has.
The most important thing that never happened.
Yes.
It's up there.
Yeah.
Hard to think of anything.
Do you agree with that?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, tell us why. Because you live in the downtown area and have for a lot of years,
right.
And plus you're a city guy. So.
Big picture?
Yes.
Transportation, land use, indivisible. Can never divorce them.
Yes.
How you move shapes the city. How you build your transportation infrastructure. And Vancouver is an outstanding example of a city that was built around the streetcar.
Yes.
Maybe the best way of building cities we've come across.
Yes.
And that was literally plowed under to build expressways into the hearts of the city, build loops or nooses around them, lots of parking.
The worst example on earth, Los Angeles, which had a great streetcar system.
Every city in North America.
Yes.
Very few exceptions.
Yes.
Except this one.
Yeah.
And now we can look around and get a pretty good idea of what the consequences were. You can certainly say that we haven't suffered because of it.
Yes.
So long as you have alternatives.
I find it amusing that Vancouverites complain bitterly, I guess we all need something to complain about traffic.
Everyone does.
And I tell you, I say to all my friends, I can get anywhere from A to B in 20 minutes. I think this is like a village.
Oh, that might be, but nonetheless.
Yes.
It's a very stressful situation when you're caught in traffic, and it's so
Yes,
contradictory to what the automobile offers you.
Yes.
Which is freedom. And that sense of speed, right?
Yeah. Good luck. When do you find that?
Well, in every car commercial, for one thing.
Yeah, that's the only place.
Yeah. Yeah. So the gap between the promise and the reality is very, very frustrating. As well, there are real downsides when you're thinking about how a city works economically.
Yes.
It's just not about moving people. You've got to move goods. And if that's bogged down, there's a real economic.
So what do you make of the perimeter road that we're building or talking about through Delta,
right.
And that's largely all about moving goods?
Yes, and when I was on the TransLink board,
yes,
voted in favor of it in principle. But the problem always is that when you build a goods movement corridor, unless you can restrict it or price it, which we don't, it turns into a commuter road.
A free-for-all.
Yeah, it fills up. And most importantly, it shapes the land use as a consequence. Basically the dispersed city, sprawl.
But we do, yeah, and we do have this very serious problem. This is a port city. It's always, the only reason it's here is because it's a port city. We have these enormous terminals at the waterfront, and we're bringing in all these goods from Asia. Everything we wear and all our toys are all built in Asia, and we're sending out a piece of wood every so often and some potash and stuff, lots of stuff.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, I'm being silly about it, but it's a lot of traffic.
Yeah, no, we're one of the biggest ports in North America.
Yeah, so we use rail. The rail goes down.
We're really good at that.
Are we?
Oh, yeah. You can bring bulk commodities right into portside.
Yes.
You don't have to transition to any other
Yes.
mode. If we get right on a boat, that's
Yeah.
a real advantage.
Yeah, of course.
Think about what's just literally outside our window here.
Yes, yes.
A natural, ice-free deep-water port that's close to Asia, and it's connected to the rest of North America.
It's very different from St. John's, Newfoundland,
Wow.
with 100-mile-an-hour winds. Even though it's a natural port, all this wind blowing, and you're looking out at France.
It explains why we're busy
Yes.
and rich, and
Yes.
why we attract people from all over the world.
Absolutely. So let's look at Mayor Watts, who is now stepping out of the box, and she's saying, "I want a luaus, like the system in Dublin. I want a street level transit system."
Light rail, sure.
Yeah, what's it called? Light rail, yes. I want a light rail.
Yes.
And I'm going to go to the feds and directly and ask for money. It's like she doesn't have the patience to deal with, what, is it TransLink still called TransLink?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. What do you make of all that?
Well, good luck on that.
Yeah.
Canadian Constitution says the federal government doesn't get to negotiate with cities. They always have to go through the province.
Okay.
That's how that works. Hey, give her all of the above.
Yeah,
Light rail,
yeah,
beeline,
yes.
bicycles,
Yeah.
walking,
Yeah,
car.
yes,
In fact, just generally, give people 5 practical
yes,
choices, and put car at the top if you wish.
yes.
It makes as much sense to trying to ban the car as it is to be dependent completely on it.
Impossible. You
Right.
can't ban it. You're not going to get rid of it. But
Nor should you be completely dependent upon
Exactly.
it, because we don't have a good working example of that.
Yeah.
It's that congestion problem. Why am I stuck in traffic?
yeah,
And then give them every kind of transit that is practical and affordable. Has to be a mix. Throw in taxis, car share, bike share. Throw in
Yes.
walking,
Yeah.
running, skateboarding.
car to go, modo.
Absolutely.
You like all those?
Uh,
Yeah, yeah.
and weave them together in a practical way. Technology will help us do that.
Tell me your top 3 favorite complaints about SkyTrain.
Oh,
If any.
You know, I have a very limited tolerance for that.
Really?
Yeah.
For what? For complaining or for
SkyTrain is
SkyTrain?
SkyTrain is almost an urban miracle.
Really? You really
Think of
like it
how
a
many-
lot.
You've been around the world a bit.
Yeah, yeah.
How many subway systems from Hong Kong, London,
Yeah,
Paris, New York? Can you wait? Miss a train?
Yeah, 2 minutes.
90 seconds,
Yes.
60 seconds.
Yes.
How many systems are like that?
Yeah, not many.
Hardly.
Some. The system in Dublin, the light rail system is like that.
Every 30 seconds? Every 60 seconds?
About every 2 minutes, I'd say.
Well.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing for a city of our size.
Yes.
That wasn't built around, well, not quite true. The Expo line runs along the old BCER right-of-way. That goes back. You know, you could take a train from Abbott and Hastings to Chilliwack or Steveston in around the 1890s.
Yes.
Astonishing. No wonder we built ourselves around it.
If you were the god of transportation, what would you do about getting students and professors out to UBC? Besides what we have. We have the 99 line, which is pretty great. It's pretty efficient.
Yeah,
But,
the attention is to UBC.
yeah.
You know, I am going to leave that for more analysis
Really?
compared to what we can afford
Yes.
and what the other trade-offs are.
Yeah.
But the real challenge is that Broadway corridor from Main Street to Arbutus.
Why?
It's the busiest bus route at the moment in North America. It has tens of thousands of jobs. It's the second largest downtown in British Columbia.
Yes.
It has the potential for many, many more. The UBC president thinks 100,000 or more.
And
this is in high-tech, medical,
Yes.
research, just a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah, well, it's all the hospital and all
Right.
the medical buildings.
When you get to
around,
those
yeah.
volumes, you're going to have something that is, technical term, grade separated.
And speaking of how we build around transportation nodes,
Yep.
the Broadway and Cambie corner area,
Yeah.
to me, has become one of the most fun, pleasurable neighborhoods in the city.
Yeah, you
I
know,
love going down there to get groceries or have a coffee or
we have
whatever.
the potential for 5 Metrotown stations along that Broadway corridor, just that part of it.
Really?
Yeah.
Are
Yeah,
we
so
gonna-
the demand is just huge already.
Yes.
We pretty much saturated at our ability just to keep adding more beelines.
I avoid by car, I mostly move around by car, but I avoid that corridor in my car. Between Cambie and Arbutus, I try to stay away from it, even though I live fairly near there.
Yes.
I'll usually use 12th Avenue.
Right. Well, you're not alone.
Yes.
And indeed, if you look at the downtown peninsula,
Yes.
well, this is a pretty good example, actually. If you look at the volume of cars coming in and out of the peninsula, and we count them about every 10 years.
Oh, I thought we counted them practically daily.
Oh, no.
Yeah, okay.
Not in terms of what they call, again, technical. We're getting
Yeah.
a bit engineering here,
Okay.
into the weeds. But yeah, no. You literally count everything that crosses a screen line, as they call it, in 24 hours.
Yep.
And you do this about every 10 or 15 years, so you can see what the trend is. Now, population's doubled. Jobs, likewise. Tourism.
Yes.
Where do you think we are in terms of the number of vehicles coming in and out of downtown Vancouver?
What about the complaints that started to come up around Cambie and Marine Drive,
Yeah, okay.
which seemed like
Answer my question, David.
What was your question?
Where do you think we are in terms of the volume of vehicles? What's happened, say, since about 1960?
Oh, I
the
thought you were asking a rhetorical question.
No,
Sorry.
not at all.
Yeah,
Number of vehicles coming in and out of downtown in 1960, a bit before you arrived
yeah,
here.
yeah, yeah.
And now,
I would say we've probably doubled,
you would think,
tripled.
minimum.
I give up.
No,
What?
we're down to about 1964 levels.
Really?
Yeah,
Why? Because of the train.
bunch of things.
Yes.
Transit, certainly.
Yes.
Much better transit. More people living and working downtown.
Aha.
They're walking. Jobs have shifted. People talk about jobs declining in downtown Vancouver as they go
Yes.
to the suburbs. Now, some jobs have, and so they should, because that's the regional plan. That's what we want.
You live in the deep end of the West End,
Yeah.
close to the park,
Right.
and you walk to work.
I got a whole
most
bunch
the
of
time.
choices. I've got all the North Shore buses. I've got
Yeah.
the trolley bus. I've got my bike. I can
Yeah.
walk, taxi.
And Mike Keeping, who's often the director of this program, lives right near where you do.
Right.
He walks here to the Shaw Tower
Sure.
pretty much most days.
Right? A little bit of exercise. It's
Yeah.
enjoyable. You can do shopping along the way.
Just a quick survey. Could Mike use some exercise?
Couldn't we all?
Yeah.
And indeed, that's one of the big themes today. And if you go to urban planning conferences,
Yes. You still go to urban planning conferences?
you betcha.
It's your life. It's what
love
you
it.
do.
It's life. It is life.
Yeah.
It's how we build, how we live, how we move. It's endlessly interesting. It's the human story.
Yeah.
It's civilization. That's civilization, civitas, cities.
Got it.
Same thing.
In 20 seconds or less, pick a city that you really get a kick out of seeing because of its transportation style.
There isn't one I don't.
Really?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
love them all.
Well,
Because
sure.
they're always interesting.
If you're looking at it from that point of view,
Yes.
it's always interesting
Yes.
because it's about people.
Yeah.
Don't
Yeah.
we always love them? We're
Oh,
animals.
Of
We're
course,
social
of course
animals.
we're social animals,
Yeah.
of course. Take a little break and say this is your chance to take note of our website, davidberner.com. Always happy to hear your comments and feedback. Also an opportunity for those lovely people who support this program to say hello here on Shaw Community Television Cable 4. We'll be back with you in just a moment. This program has been made possible in part by the following sponsors. The Trial Lawyers Association of BC. The Vancouver Courier newspaper. My new book about addictions, All the Way Home, Building Recovery That Works. Gordon Price has made the study of cities and how we get around in them basically his life work and passion, and he's the head of the city program at SFU and has a ball doing what he does after many, many years sitting on Vancouver City Council. A quick check on Vancouver City Council. You give them an A+, a B-?
I'll give all city councils since 1972, the team council is 72, I'll give it an A.
Yeah.
And we've never had a council as great as that council.
That was Mikey?
No, that was Art Phillips.
Oh, that was Art Phillips and?
Yeah, a remarkable council, if I can remember them all. Certainly Walter Hardwick.
Yes.
Fitz Bowers.
Yes. When was Jonathan on?
Later. Jeff Massey. It was a sterling lineup.
Oh, that, yeah, okay, the 70s, yes.
Yeah. And all councils have more or less hewed to the position and the institutions that they created. Again, into the weeds, but things like the Property Endowment Fund, Development Permit Board, the way we regulate, and have depoliticized to a great extent development. That'll surprise a lot of people, but yeah. Now, every council has not fundamentally departed. You're not going to get anybody who says, you know, it would be a great idea to build more roads and freeways into Vancouver.
Right.
That's off the political agenda.
Yeah.
And no one's really going to say, hey, you know, this is an opportunity to raise taxes big time or cut them big time. We have a level of service that people expect.
Why? Yeah, okay. Because if we cut, I was going to ask, why wouldn't we cut? Because people are afraid we'll lose these services.
Oh, people are very passionate about their community centers, their fire halls. They expect a very high level of service, and by and large, they get it. And because they do, it's the same with TransLink and transit. We're very intolerant when we feel it's not serving us as good as it should.
Our society, Canadian society, I'm speaking specifically Canadian society, has become closer and closer to almost being a Sweden in that we provide so many services. We're not there yet. We aren't at the place where cradle to grave, as the Swedes and the Danes claim.
Moving from that, in fact.
Yeah, but it strikes me that we have a lot of services that I wouldn't say we could entirely do without, but we do a lot of mucking about in areas that I think just don't belong on the city plate.
And that's where we have our debates, you see, because the fundamentals are basically strong. Councils aren't going to deviate much from them. Every council falls maybe left or right of center.
Yes.
And again, good, passionate political debates, but the fundamentals hold.
Look, I think I'm like a lot of people. I want to know the police, fire, ambulance, roads, and so on, hydro. These things are sort of managed and taken care of.
And the same at the regional level.
Yes, exactly.
Look at this, water.
Yeah.
Any idea what that costs?
Yeah, huge, gigantic. Talk to the communities that don't have it around the world.
No water, no city.
Yes.
And it doesn't kill you.
Yeah.
What does it cost you? Any idea?
Pennies. Yeah, next to nothing.
If we had 1,000 liters now, think of a liter bottle, 1,000 of them, the water district wholesales that to the city at about 25 cents.
And as much as we are obsessed with bottled water and with purified water and with all that jazz, you can drink water right.
It should be so good.
Yeah, we can drink it right out of the tap. It's perfectly good.
Yeah. So this is why it's discouraging to see trust undermined.
Yes.
And divisiveness being fostered.
You see, here's where I start. I would go, well, I'm not sure we need a social planning department. And then I say to myself, well, wait a minute. Social planning department has done some really wonderful things over the years. The Children's Festival comes to mind. I mean, specifics come to mind.
Again, that era.
Sorry?
Going back to the 70s.
That was that area, the Ernie Fliddell and so on.
That's right.
And Max, what was his name?
Max Beck.
No, but I was thinking the other guy. I'll get it. The tall guy who spoke so quietly, who whispered, who was the social planner. Morris Egan.
Oh, Morris Egan.
Yeah.
Well, you see, these are fabled names for those of us who...
who are around.
Hey, but my point is this, that we are still well served around the region by a very high quality, both of elected officials at the regional and local level, and by staff.
It's the staff I'm thinking about. If you were God for a day, you wouldn't trim anything?
Oh, sure.
You would trim.
I would have my own priorities.
Yes.
But the fundamentals, I would rely.
Yeah.
And because people have these expectations, the things we don't have to debate about.
But the extras, the priorities, it's sort of like car sales. You know, they can practically give you the car for cost. It's all on the servicing and all the toys.
Two words.
Yes.
Bike lanes.
Yes. What
Now,
about them?
We got these incredibly passionate bike lanes.
It drives me nuts.
Exactly. Get a dinner party going and introduce.
Yeah,
Bike
lanes. You'll have people throwing food at each other. Yeah.
A tiny, tiny fraction of our budget,
Yeah.
right? And in the scheme of things,
Yes.
inconsequential. Really. In the very, very big
I'm gonna
picture.
take on
and
the-
look, I'm a big fan.
I'm going to take on the position of all the drivers in the world, and I'm going to say, if it's inconsequential, why do we
Here
bother
we
doing
go.
it?
Here we go.
Yeah.
So we have the luxury of
Yes.
being able to have that kind of debate.
Yes. Okay. Is there anything, are we the model for Canada? Or for
Some
in your
things.
mind? Is there
yeah.
some things that we can pick up from
Yeah, there's even a
Montreal
word
or
for it.
Saskatoon?
Oh, absolutely, from every city.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what's great about being in office and traveling. You know, people criticize politicians often for junkets or
Yes,
get your politicians out of town.
Yeah.
Can't advise that highly enough.
Yeah.
Once they're in office, they won't understand their own place as well if they don't have the opportunity to see it through the perspective of somewhere else.
You know, I think, Gordon, any reasonable person wouldn't mind these junkets if we could get a sense, maybe politicians aren't as bright as they ought to be, that they came back and said, you know, I was just in Shanghai and I want to tell you what I saw, and I think we can put that to work for us.
They do that all the time.
When I rarely hear these kinds of statements. I just know that the expense accounts have gone up, and I think that's what your average reader of the newspaper sees. Are we just dopey? We're just not informed enough? You're quite a defender of city governments. You like them. Of course, you were part of them for a long time.
Yeah, there's such a drop-off in coverage.
Yes.
The funny thing is, and I'm sure you've observed this in other areas, coverage has narrowed. We don't get the breadth of coverage we used to.
You're talking about media?
Yeah.
Oh, I absolutely agree.
But it's deepened. If you want to go to the blogs or get into
Yes.
into the weeds on very narrow things and have real debates, very polarized debates.
Yeah.
So misinformation just gets taken as truth, gets repeated, retweeted, and I find this particularly when I'm on radio, it's moving so fast. Something will get thrown out and you want to say, well, actually that's not true.
Yeah.
Generally, it's a more nuanced discussion you have to have, and there's no time for it.
And there's no money, because we saw yesterday that once again, both
Yeah.
Post Media and the Globe
Yeah.
are cutting staff.
Oh, this is serious.
It's very, very serious.
We can't have the conversation to some degree that we're having because we know the people, we know the issues, we've been part of that. But if someone just generally wants to keep up, hard to do.
And they're not getting, the odd thing that surprised me in that report is they're not getting the revenues from digital that they were hoping for.
Yeah, this is
And
tough.
we seem to think that all of our lives are digital. We just have 3 minutes left. Take me back to something we started with, which still fascinates me. These nodules of development around
Stations.
stations.
That is
like,
one thing we're known for.
Yes.
I will take people not to downtown Vancouver. We
Yes.
do a tour of places like
Yeah.
Falls Creek, but I want to take them out to Edmund Station
Yes.
and to Surrey Centre
Yeah.
and out to Port Moody, dozens of kilometers away from the centre, to show them a very sophisticated urbanism.
How things,
Densities
Like
and
a garden.
heights and mix of uses,
yes,
relationships to transportation, all
Yeah.
that fun stuff we do.
yeah.
But it's real. And once say an Australian has seen this and can go back with a different perspective, cities,
What do we do about an unintended consequence? Broadway and Commercial Station and King George Station
Yeah.
are real havens for thuggery and drugs and petty crime and so on. I'm sure nobody intended to do that. They didn't say, let's build a SkyTrain system and have these horrible
Right.
things happen.
well, these are commitments over 100 years.
Yeah.
Remember, if you had wound the clock back and looked at cities like London,
Yes.
100 or 200 years ago, they were dirty, polluted, unsafe. They killed you in many ways.
Yeah.
It's all changed. New York in the 70s and 80s.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, cities go through that. That's life again, David. That's life. So if you're going to build a transportation system, think of it in 100-year terms. It will change. Now, you still have to make commitments You have to deal with those issues
You have
of
to make
today.
commitments like to have
Right.
good transit police and have some rules and have turnstiles and people actually pay and
All that good stuff.
Well, what a concept! The honor system, brilliant.
They always have.
Yeah.
The amount of
Yeah.
see, this is where we go. We got to stop the conversation to go back and actually look at the facts.
Yes.
There was never the amount of fare evasion that people perceived. The perception was more important.
This was my perception. My perception
So
was
we
that
spent. We had this report twice when I was on the Translate Board. Never made any economic sense to put in turnstiles. Couldn't possibly justify it. Couldn't possibly. You'd never make up in revenues gained.
What about from day one? Why didn't we have them from day one?
Because that system that we put in place is one of the best.
I'm sorry.
I know.
I've seen other systems that I think are better.
And that's,
Yeah.
but for the size and the amount of maintenance and policing that's required, that honor system, you'll find it in Vienna. You'll find it in cities where they have very high levels of service.
Coming up just days from now, Sochi Olympics.
Yeah.
We had a massive, fabulous, successful Olympics here.
Pretty good.
Yeah, pretty darn good.
Yep.
I wasn't a big fan, but
The
that doesn't
transportation
matter.
system worked so extraordinarily
Yeah,
well.
everybody thought
Again,
nobody would get to Whistler. and
another
back.
example of taking it for granted.
Yes.
Right? And then complaining and thinking we have a poor system that should be so much better
You
if they only spent their money wisely.
You got to guess. We got 30 seconds. You got to guess on how Sochi's going to compare.
It's
to Whistler?
not almost like a different category of
A whole other thing.
on many different levels. But we're going to be focusing back on the athlete.
Yeah, of course.
Hopefully, the human experience.
As always.
And isn't that what it's always about?
Gordon, nice to see you. Thank you very much. That's it, folks, for this program. Next week, the Biltmore Hotel wants a grand, but we ain't got a grand on hand. The Biltmore project is turning the hotel into a place for homeless, and we're going to meet a marvelous lady who's behind a lot of this, and she will demonstrate clearly that homelessness is not restricted to one or two neighborhoods. It's in your neighborhood, folks, and we have to deal with it, okay? Thanks for being with us. See you again soon here on Shaw Community Television. Good night.